Hello. Well, here we are again in my little corner of my salon, sitting room, living room. Call it what you like. Welcome. And I went on a little trip to Sweden where I visited Stockholm. And of course, as you may know, I did do one of these little live chats from my hotel room there, which was a very comfortable hotel. I don't get paid for doing this, by the way, so I shall just mention that it was called the Rex Hotel, and it was very oldie worldy environment, modern hotel, of course, and the staff were lovely, and it was very cosy, and it had a few stars. Well, so it should, and it was very pleasant, and it was very near to everywhere I wanted to be. Even comparatively near to the Hammarby Zinken Stadium, where I went and spent a day. And of course, very, very near Vasaparken, which is where the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge came to watch an exhibition of Bandy playing, and met some little kids, and it was all very lovely and very cold. So one had to wrap up really extra warm. And my old boots came in very, very handy because, as you know, I like trudging about in the ice, and you have to make sure that you're not going to fall over, especially when you get a bit old. So there you go. So I had a good time. It was wonderful to meet so many friends that I'd made actually on Facebook on here, who all share my love of the ice and the sport. And especially all the bandy players that I met was absolutely tremendous. And even across all the years, we still had so much in common. And even though I can't skate anymore, it has faded into nothing because within myself, I was still part of that skating life. And I was able to exchange comments and information about skates and the ice and stuff like that. It was wonderful. And of course, as I say, I met so many people that I'd only met through Facebook, but we are indeed friends, and I look forward to going back out to Sweden and doing some more of the same. So here I am back here, and Diana, good morning to you, dear. Yes, well, of course it's afternoon here. Sweden was only 1 hour ahead, so it was almost like being plunged back into British summertime, which, as you know, is 1 hour on. And then, of course, we came back to Greenwich Mean Time. But it actually pointed out to me that time is relative, as Einstein would have said, and that it doesn't matter where you are on this globe of ours, you can always be in touch with the next human being, which is really good. And we've no need to perhaps fear the night time, because if we just remember that where it's night time where we are, it's daytime where somebody else is. So where the sun sets here, it rises elsewhere. And that's how it all goes on. And of course, things like weather, climate, are very relevant if you want to skate outdoors. I'm very interested in bringing the ice indoors because that's where I learned. If I'd have had to rely on outdoor ice, I would never have learned to skate as I did. So I'm absolutely full steam ahead trying to get this huge stadium for Great Britain built somehow. And hopefully here, near where I live, because I don't want to go very far, you see. My mum used to say, if Mohammed won't go to the mountain, then the mountain has to come to Mohammed. And although I don't equate myself with a great prophet, I nevertheless feel that an ice stadium on my doorstep would be really great, especially big enough to play bandy on and to have a 400-metre long speed skating oval as well. So that would be fantastic. And to go out to Sweden, to Stockholm, and see all these vast sheets of ice, just ideal. And all I would want to do is just throw a roof over the lot and make sure that we had climate control and so on. I must tell you that I went into the Hammarby ice rink, which is a hockey rink, and it was literally just the same as one of our farmers' sheds here. It was about 30 by 60, and it had a big roof, and it was basically metal, and there was no heating. So it was literally like walking into a fridge. It was just amazing as an experience. And of course, I grew up with heated ice rinks, and my stadium plans include heating for spectators, or even, should I say, wimps like me who are skaters and like to get a bit warm as well when they're not on the ice. So yeah, it was brilliant. And Tracy's saying, why can't you skate anymore, Lynn? Well, it's because I was diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis, and then I got the osteoarthritis, and now they call it polyarthritis, which just means lots of it. So I'm sort of riddled with it, and I had to get off the ice in 1996, and my dear skating colleague and friend helped me off the ice at Guildford when I realised that my knees were just giving up, and I couldn't skate anymore because I couldn't stop. I had no strength left in my legs. And it just went downhill from there on. I found I couldn't even stand up in my skates. I went to complain to my doctor, and I said, it feels like my bones are all twisted up, so I've got no proper centre of gravity. And he had an examine, and he said, well, that's because they are twisted, so that's it, mate. So that's why I can't skate anymore. But as people know, I do have a chair, and I do get my skates put on my feet, and I can still feel the old ice there underneath the blades, and that is brilliant. So, and a good friend that I met in Sweden, there in Vasapark and Per, he suggested to me, what about bob skates, as we call them, a double blade on each foot. Maybe I'll try that, but really I don't think I could put myself through that because my body hurts too much. There you are. So that is a long answer to a short question. Okay, Tracy. I see that Wendy Perry is watching, and I've been thinking of her a lot, and it was something that I wanted to talk about. Now, the ice and my love of ice brought me in to this spiritual way of life that I enjoy, and that I try hard to make other people enjoy as well. Being a spiritualist, I'm not of the convert or die variety, perish the thought, because my family, my father's family, left Spain during the Inquisition just because of that. And they were Jews, and that's why they left. And when they didn't leave, they were expelled. And I'm so against people pushing their religious views on other people that I really don't like to do that at all. But I think being spiritual is something different, or being ethical. And you don't really have to have any religion. There you are. I mean, we know that. My grandfather, for instance, was an atheist, as was the father of the founding editor of Psychic News. He was a great spiritualist, great pioneer. He was a trance medium, and his father was a Jewish atheist. Well, fair enough. My grandfather was too. It's just that there's room in this world for every idea, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody else. That's what I think. Speaking of that, the ice brought me into spiritualism because after my dad died, I was devastated, and although I'd always known about spirit and I'd always known about the other world, the Bible that I had to agree with at the time, or else, said that you couldn't have anything to do with mediums or spiritists or anything, and you certainly mustn't talk to the dead and stuff like that. So I was definitely frightened off it. But I succumbed, and my skater friend, my dear friend, Kay Dibbling as she was then, convinced me that I'd feel much better if I went with her to a spiritualist church. And so I did go along, and that is why I listened to the philosophy that first time. It was wonderful, and so there you are. Here I am now, many, many, many years later, having embraced the spiritualist ethos, and I'm now an ordained minister as well for my pains, which is sort of like saying, stop me and buy one, or stop me and ask me, really. Stop me and buy one is the old ice cream sellers, you know, they used to have a bicycle and ice cream in a basket, and they used to cycle round with a little sign on that said, stop me and buy one. So that's what I'm referring to, in case you are not as old as me and don't know. So I changed that to stop me and ask me something, because questions is what I love answering, and to the best of my ability. Now, the other thing is that, like a lot of other people, I'm what is called a trance medium, which means that I can elevate my normal consciousness to a finer frequency. I've learned how to tune in to other dimensions, and I have a group of people who work with me who are discarnate, on the other side of life, if you like, and they tell me what I don't know, and then I can pass that on. So sometimes I appear to be very clever, but it isn't really me, it's them. They're the clever ones. And of course they're closer to the source, they're closer to the Great Spirit, they're closer to God. Whatever you have in your mind about what is there on the other side of life, and what is there when there's more to life than just this, and just hold fast to that. So, Tracy, yeah, therefore from today onwards I skate for you. Bless you, Tracy. Do you remember I said to you that time, do a skate for me, do a lap for me, and you told me you had, and that's exactly what that was about. So the thing is that coming forward from that, perhaps my few days that I just spent in Stockholm with the skating also was inexorably mixed up with my spiritual life, because I really do feel that there are fixed points in our lives. And some people I know say that before we come here, we sign a kind of agreement with some angelic register to say that we sign up for all the awful things that are going to happen to us. But I don't think they tell us how awful it's going to be. And when I do get back, which I hope is a long time from now, because I love it down here, I'm going to have a few words about what I might have signed up to, because I can't believe that I would have signed up to everything that I've had happen to me. But nevertheless, here I am now speaking to you. The fact is that whatever place we're in right now is the place that we have come to from where we started off being born. And all the things that have happened to us basically have led us to be where we are now. So if you are fairly happy with your situation, even if you're not, you should know that you will get over it, and that you will move through it to a better place down here, because things will happen for you. And I know that to be true, to relieve some of your discomfort, your pain and suffering. I also know that we can ask for help, and that's the basis of praying, which is what I do a lot of. What I also say is that sports people do a lot of praying, because we get frightened of what we're going to be doing next. When we're standing at the edge of the ice thinking, oh my goodness me, what's going to happen now? Am I going to win this race? Am I going to stay on my feet? Am I going to win this match? Am I going to acquit myself well in my sport? We all do a lot of praying. We ask for help, and of course we do get it. Now, God can't arrange the score lines or whether we come first, second or third, but we can feel uplifted, and we can feel a benefit from actually getting that connection, feeling that we are connected in some way to something bigger than ourselves, something greater than ourselves. I mentioned about Einstein some time back, and about time being relative. And also I mentioned about how things happen to bring us to the place where we are. And there I was out in Stockholm, having booked a hotel that was fairly near the Vasaparken, which I knew I needed to be able to get to, because that's where the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge were going to watch the Bandy exhibition, and I wanted to be there. And I found that it was only just up the road from the Swedenborg church. And Emanuel Swedenborg himself was trance medium, and he brought all sorts of revelation as he heard it. And while I don't agree with some chunks of what he received, nevertheless the methodology was there, and the ability was there. And in fact, that was the 17th century. He didn't want a religion made in his name at all, but nevertheless his followers decided that they would found a church in his name, and he was Swedish and from Stockholm, and the church is there. Just up the road from that, I should tell you about Swedenborg. Andrew Jackson Davis in the 19th century was also a trance medium, and he fell into a trance and he channeled, who do you think? Emanuel Swedenborg. And he wrote a whole load of books, all channeled from Swedenborg, who had moved on a little, thank goodness, from some of his original stuff. Now, we talk about mediums, we talk about spirit, we talk about revelation, and we can then talk about the guy who was born and lived a little way away from my hotel as well, Strindberg, the famous author, playwright, philosopher, and anti-Semite. He was famously anti-Jewish for a chunk of his life, perhaps reflecting some of the thoughts of the day. The human race, they love to look at other people, don't we? We look at other people and look down upon them because they're part of some other group, or we don't particularly like, what they look like or what they do or something or other. And I think that the Jews are coming for a lot of that in their time. And anyway, he changed his mind. He developed his own thoughts, and he changed his mind very much. And he became a theosophist, which is very similar to spiritualism, and it got an equally bad press as well in the 19th century, really bad press, and the earlier 20th, and even now, if you're a spiritualist, some religious groups, for instance, say that you are demonic or you work for the devil or some old rubbish like that. So, there we are. Oh, Lee, you enjoy listening to me. Oh, well, thank you for that. Just as well, I suppose. The beauty of this Facebook lark is that you can turn me off. Or if it's a bit too much at the time, you can just turn the sound down or turn me off and then turn it back on. And this live chat just sort of goes round on a loop, doesn't it? You can access it any time. And in fact, about time, we talked about that as well. We touched on that. Now, I always loved the president of West Norwood Church, Spiritualist Church, because she used to say to me that the service was due to start at 6:30, so I would be there perhaps as the visiting medium and speaker, and the church would be half empty, and she would say, don't worry, there's going to be the 29 minutes past 6 rush. And lo and behold, at 29 minutes past 6, there'd be an almighty rush. You'd think it was Harrod's Sale or something. Everybody would rush in and fill the church. So, time is of the essence. Tilly then used to go and lock the doors. Now, that teaches people a lesson, that they have to be on time for things. And I'm sorry to say that I was a bit late coming on to this live chat, because I did say 1500 hours GMT, and I was watching the replay of the Sweden v Russia World Championship bandy match, and I got a bit carried away and a bit cross about a penalty that I didn't think was, but I won't go into that because one has to be impartial, and that's why I'm a bit late, so I'm sorry about that. Wendy, I told you I was thinking about you. I was thinking about all these people that deliberately diet and deliberately make themselves skinny and against their natural propensities. And I'm not talking here about people who suffer mental health problems, who find themselves unable to eat or drink because they're mentally unwell. I'm talking about people who are in rude health, but who decide that they are too fat, too big, and they want to be thin, so they start not eating and stuff. Well, you know, I would say to them, think of all the people who are suffering and, you know, from debilitating illness and who can't eat. And for them, you should eat. There you are. So, Wendy, I know that you've been struggling to put on weight. I've been praying for you, as lots of other people have, I know, to find that appetite in yourself to be able to manage to eat something and then put on the weight that you need, because I know how these things work. You haven't said in your post, but I know that there you are in Papworth Hospital and waiting to see if you put sufficient weight on that perhaps you'll be able to go home and be in your own home and your own environment. So I do pray, and we all pray for that to happen for you. So really, I suppose, I don't know if anybody wants to ask me any questions, of course, in case you've thought of anything you might like to ask. But, and I do tend to go on a bit, I suppose. Oh, Diana, it's a great reason to be late. Yeah, well, yes, it's better than the dog ate my homework, isn't it? Really. And I hope that you're enjoying your dogs as well as your skates, Diana. So I suppose we will, the other thing is that I said that we would have a pray at the end. And when I was at Wimbledon Spiritualist Church, we used to go along, and sometimes I would serve the church there during the service. If it was a Sunday morning, the first Sunday morning of every month, they have a Holy Communion service, and they would put that at the end, so that if people didn't wish to stay for that, they could leave quite politely, and nobody would think anything of it. Well, not really. So in the same way, I thought, well, I'll chat to you about what I've been doing. Chat to you about what I've been doing and a bit about my sporting endeavours and loves, and about spirit and spirituality and stuff like that. And then we'll say a prayer at the end. So if you're not into prayer, then you don't have to join in. One of the things about spiritual philosophy and being a spiritualist and being a medium is that we understand that thoughts are very powerful things, and that if you are antagonistic towards something, say a prayer or somebody saying a prayer, it can actually set up a rather nasty sort of vibe. So better to allow people not to join in than to have that sort of not very nice vibe coming at you. Now then, let us then, I know it's the afternoon for me, it's the morning for other people, and nighttime for other people. And let's then just say a few words of prayer, send our thoughts out together, and ask for those who are in need at this time. There, they will get helped. So we say, Dear Lord, we know that you said that you would come back as the great comforter. And we understand that wherever 2 or 3 people are gathered in your name, that there you will be also, and you will listen to our prayers, and you will have them acted upon. So we ask now at this time for all those who are on beds of sickness and suffering. We ask, dear Lord, for all those who are struggling to regain their appetites. We ask you, dear Lord, to put flesh on their bones, just as it is said that you would breathe flesh onto the bones, onto the dry bones. We ask you, dear Lord, all these things. We ask you also at this time for our dear animals, because they too are sentient beings, and they too have little spirits, and they depend on us, the human race, to look after their habitat, to look after them if they're our pets, to look out after them if they're our companion animals, if we are in the matter of husbandry, when animals are in fact our business, in farming and so on. So we ask you, dear Lord, to look after all the little animals, look after them and make sure that they thrive on this planet of ours. And we ask, dear Lord, also for people to stop wasting things, to stop throwing things away that are harmful to not just the animals but to the world itself and ultimately to ourselves. We ask you, dear Lord, all these things. We also ask you for those who we love, who may not be as well as we would like at the moment. We would also ask you, dear Lord, to relieve poverty where you can, to give people jobs, to give people some hope that their money worries will be assuaged. And dear Lord, where we know, each one of us will know somebody who is struggling financially, ask. Each of us should ask for those people to be anointed with some money, because they need that to get around in this life. They need it for food, for shelter and for warmth. They need it for the basics. So, dear Lord, we ask you. We also ask you for all those who are not known to us, but who are suffering at this time. We ask you for whatever nation, whatever country, culture or creed they are, that they should be given respite from any suffering that they are undergoing at this time. We ask all these things in the name of love and truth and light. Amen. There. So, we've asked as much as we can, really, for the time being. Of course, I always say, pray when you get up. Pray when you go to bed. If you don't know what to say, just say thank you. Send out your thoughts of thanks, because if you wake up, you're alive, and it gives you an opportunity to do something more with your time. Now, this is the present, and this is, yes, I will. Send healing, yes, of course. Diane, yes. I do always ask for people that I know of. Sometimes I fall asleep because the list is a bit long, and then I wake up and I think, oh, have I asked for everybody, or who have I missed off before I fell asleep? So what we can do is that we can always shortcut, and we can always say, because those above us know who we're talking about, and they know who we're thinking of, and they know about our list. And what we can do is say, dear Lord, for all those who are in my mind and in other people's minds, and in that way you make sure that everybody is cared about and gets some help. So yes, as I say, always be thankful, always be hopeful, always know that you are a child of the light, that nothing can hurt you if you hold on to what's good, what you know is the right thing, and if you care about the next person, and try hard to love the people that you don't like. That is so hard for me, because deep down I'm just a hooligan skater who used to tear about on a general session, and then when I got the chance, tear about on a track, and then when I got another chance, tore about on an ice hockey pitch, and I was never quite the nicest person, and you just have to think to yourself, well, you've got to try and be better than you are. So I've always had a struggle with that. So I do appreciate how it's difficult to love people just, generally, especially if they're wearing a different uniform to you, different top. You've got a Redskins shirt on and they've got a blue and yellow one. Whatever. But I did. You were saying about enjoyed my trip to Eastern Europe. Yeah, that was amazing, because of course my mother's family came from Eastern Europe, and I never ever imagined that I would fly east or go east. I've always gone to the west or to the south, or even north if you count Scotland. That's the furthest north I've been. But yeah, so get kicked out of the rink for going too fast. Yes, Diana, I went to Bournemouth when I was 15 to go and stay with my grandpa, funnily enough, that I've just mentioned, the one who came from Lithuania. And I went to Bournemouth. I took my hockey skates with me, and I won't tell you how long ago that was, but girls hardly wore hockey skates in those days. And the manager of the rink came up to me and he said, "Are you from Streatham?" I said, "Yes, why?" And he said, "I know by your skates, any trouble from you and you're off." And I hadn't even got them on. Oh dear. And especially at Richmond Ice Rink, the stewards used to have a whistle, and if you tore about on the ice there, they'd whistle, and I used to just keep going because I thought, well, they can't catch me. Oh dear, oh dear. I won't tell you that I used to go through the middle of all the figure skaters and then they used to fall down. I never touched them. They just used to fall. There you go. It's like the parting of the Red Sea. Now, enough of that. I hope that you have a really good rest of this day. For many people, it's a Sabbath. It's the day that they celebrate that God finished creating the world. He rested on this day. For some, it's Saturday. Some, it's Friday. I say for spiritualists, it's every day of the week. Because how can you just have one day set aside to be holy? And we can't really tell which day the world was finished on, and therefore, the great Creator rested from his labours. I don't believe that God has ever rested from his labours. I think we have been far too much trouble to God, if you want to call him, for convenience's sake. I think the human race has been one bag of trouble ever since. A bit like having children yourself. Those of you who've had children or have been in a family of children, because after all, we've all been a child, haven't we? And we've all been a bit of a pain and a trial and tribulation to our parents or a parent, or whoever's brought us up or tried to. We have all been a trial and tribulation to our parent who art in heaven, who is in the world of spirit. And we just have to try to be better, to do better and be a bit good. Suzanne, I used to get on the ice at Streatham when they were cleaning it with a big machine. We'd get told off. Well, you would. You see, the thing is, I used to love to try and do that as well. But if you fell over, God forbid, you could have a terrible accident with one of those Zambonis, You could get scraped up, and nobody wants that. I remember the days, of course, when it used to be the men with brown overalls and a bucket and a broom, and they used to wait until everybody got off the ice, and then they would go and sweep all the snow off, and then they'd scrape it a bit, and they'd put water over it with their buckets. And that's what I wanted to do when I grew up. There you are. When I was a child, I used to love to see that. And I still love the Zamboni, or the ice cleaning machines. And I love to watch them. And when I was out at Hammarby, I took a video of the ice cleaning machines. How sad is that? And I have watched it many times because I enjoy it so much. But I know that Michael Bratt, my good friend, who's the head coach of the Czech Republic, who's been out at the World Championships, he sent a wonderful vid of the ice cleaning machine in China, and that was about 100 blokes. I think they were men anyway, or possibly women or whatever. People, let's say people. And they swept the ice, I kid you not. Have a look. If you look on I think I might have got it on mine. I think he shared it to me. But anyway, there you go. So, we've all got our stories to tell, haven't we? We're not all balmy enough to get on a live chat on Facebook and talk about such matters. Not exactly earth-shattering, are they? But it's what made my world go round. It still makes my world go round. It still gives me hope for the future. I'm now thinking, when I thought I would never go abroad again, never mind fly to Stockholm, I'm now thinking of my next trip, and I'm hoping to go back to Sweden because they were such wonderful people, and we had such fun. Of course I was happy to come home, and I would be happy to entertain them all over here when we get our stadium built. And that draweth a little nearer now as well because of that trip that I made. So we'll have to watch this space, as they say, and there will be a story about my trip to Sweden in the Ely Standard, which is the local East Anglia newspaper group. It may also be in other of their papers that they have. Archant is the company that publish them. Next Thursday, with some pictures that Kathy took. So it's put our ice skating on the map where it should be, and it's not all Torval and Dean, is it? As nice as they are and everything else, I'm into other kinds of ice sport, and I would like to see more people involved in that. And Bandy particularly is wonderful. It's a speed skater's dream, believe me, because you can just fly with that. And if you're a good session skater as well, if you can get in and out of tiny gaps and stuff like that, straight through the gap sideways on one foot, you will be a good bandy skater too. So there you go. Well, I shall wish you a good day here from Littleport in England on the Fens, not very far away from where all that outdoor speed skating and bandy used to go on. And of course, if it freezes, we have made plans to actually freeze a patch on the moors so that we can have speed skating and we can have bandy. So we will just see. And just to mention that Planet Ice Peterborough, which is the ice arena there, it's a hockey size rink. Mark Savage, the manager there, has said that he'll talk with me about having bandy sessions there, a bandy club, a Peterborough bandy club, and have sessions there so that we can actually look towards putting on a big exhibition match late August between Sweden and Gibb-de. There you go. You heard it here first. So there you are. So that's another thing that I'm praying for, and I might ask you all to pray for the same thing if you don't mind. And I hope that you all feel a bit better in yourself. I know we all get healing when we pray for other people. So I know that I will feel a bit better as well myself. And I'm sure that all our little animals will feel a bit better as well. And Wendy too. And all those who are struggling to recover their health. Say goodbye for now, and see you soon. And I hope that I stirred up a few memories for you guys as well. Bye for now. Bye. I'm now going to put this off. Bye.